retired doctor, and my wife and I living up in Cassie, look after our cows. So nice to meet you all. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you all. So I wanted to talk through fluoride, and Marcel has talked about the toxicity of this stuff, and I want really to make clear to you that this stuff is toxic, and it's the most extraordinary sort of madness to be put this in anybody's drinking water. It's not going to benefit any of you people. The argument is that it helps small children form decent teeth, but any of you people will get no benefit. When I was giving anesthetics, it was all about looking after individual people, one at a time, personalised. Medicine needs to be around, taking care of you, watching over you, and being conscious of the harm you can do to each person. When it becomes a sort of, oh, just chuck it on the reservoir, you lose this sense of personal responsibility and the harm you can do to people. And that really concerns me. My life in medicine was all around individuals. You watching me timing? I was in intensive care. I was medical director of the Auckland Ambulance Service, and I want to tell a story from 52 years ago. It was an anaesthetic agent that they stopped using 52 years ago because it was toxic to the kidneys. On these graphs here, the top line is when your kidneys were actually clearly damaged by having this. At the bottom it says days. So, you know, here's day one. Somebody would only be asleep for 2 or 4 hours. But this stuff was weeping out of their bodies for, you know, they stopped measuring it 7 days. The lower line is that the blood tests were showing positive. But, you know, this was 52 years ago. It's quite clear that if you breathed in this particular substance, it released fluoride into your bloodstream and then damaged your kidneys. Now, I think you'll get a sense that it causes it to damage kidneys, particularly in the elderly. People have reduced renal function. Maori and Pacific Islanders, they're more at risk of renal failure and diabetes. So adding this stuff in water is going to make, if you can't, you need to be able to get rid of some fluoride from your blood. But if your kidneys are damaged, then your levels are going to go even higher. So people who have got some degree of kidney function are going to be exposed to more harm. It will not benefit any adult. It is only offering harm to those adults. And I just emphasised here what Marcel said, which is that this stuff lowers the IQ in children. You claim you're doing it to help children's teeth, but these 52 out of 57 studies in the States are showing that you drop the IQ of the kids. And that I don't think we want that to happen to kids. And the emphasis is, this is really an American idea. The Europeans will not have a bar of soap of this stuff. It was an American idea. It was a way to get rid of toxic aluminium from smelters, and they were able to sort of persuade people that if you put it into teeth, it would help. No one in Europe will have anything to do with this stuff, and particularly in the Bay of Plenty here, a lot of the town supplies, they call it, is sprayed over crops. So it goes over kiwi fruit, it goes over avocados. And this stuff is going to weep into the harbour, it's going to get into the shellfish, it's going to get into the fish in the harbour, and we're meant to be guardians of the harbour, and yet we're going to go and in Auckland, they're putting 700 tonnes of fluoride into the water system here. That is like 2 tonnes a day being tipped off the end of one of the piers in Auckland Harbour. 2 tonnes of fluoride. It's not going to be so much in Bay of Plenty. But this is the scale of what these people want to dump into the water. It has no role in mammals. The only place you can find fluoride is that some sponges make it as a poison to kill other animals. It's the only place fluoride exists in nature. No animal uses this stuff. There's 2 diseases that people recognise. There's skeletal fluorosis when fluoride gets into your bones, and there's dental fluorosis when it gets in the teeth. And those areas that have fluoride put into the water, the kids get dental fluorosis because you're giving it to them from newborns or in utero. And so you can actually show that there are damage to these things. Dental fluorosis, what it actually shows is you under-mineralize the teeth. You're sold this idea that teeth are stronger. If you put fluoride in the teeth, you actually weaken them. You get pitting, you get discoloured teeth. If you put it into the bones, which is what happens, most of the fluoride that anybody would drink will end up in their bones. There's this idea, it goes into your stomach, turns left, goes up here, into your mouth, and lodges in your teeth. That's complete nonsense. You're going to fill your body with fluoride all through your bones. And as you get older and you worry about arthritis, some of this stuff is probably going to be contributing to pain from arthritis. Medicine should be about individual people, not about checking it in the water supply. I had some pictures here. These people in India, you might think they're lucky. images of what fluoride does to people's bones. You know, we want to give people just a small dose of poison, but I'd like to suggest to you this stuff is a poison. Here are more pictures. Dental fluorosis, it stains the teeth. And as you get along, you can see the enamel in the teeth are damaged too. Now this is just by this tiny amount of water, just tiny amount. You know, it's going to hurt anybody. Well, it is actually going to hurt the teeth, and it's going to hurt other things. I wanted to talk about people who came to New Zealand, and they looked at particularly pre-European. There was a dentist in 1930 came to New Zealand. He was really interested in the health of people before the Europeans arrived. And he looked at Maori teeth that were held in skulls in museums in Wellington. Sir Aparana Nata helped him with his visit. And he was staggered how good the teeth were in Maori. The pre-European, they had 1 in 2,000 teeth had hold of it. That's how good things were, eating traditional diets. And they made the comment that Maori seemed to have been the most immune race to dental caries. But the point was that Europeans had rotten teeth, but when Maori children were living under European conditions, then they had the same tooth rot. So it's what you're eating is the problem. And so you get pictures like this in 1930, beautiful teeth and a beautiful dental arch. This was people were eating traditional foods, they were looking after themselves. And as people start consuming sugar and flour and things, they damage their teeth. And my summary was, it's sugar that's doing this. We need to recognize what the problem is. By burying our heads in the sand and thinking a little bit of fluoride will do some good, we are totally ignoring what the real problem is. To talk more about this, when they went up to Mahia Peninsula to look, the Maori and Mahia had the very best teeth. They were eating seafood, and they had tiny percentage of decayed teeth. And I wanted to show this graph to try and help you sort of see this. When Captain Cook came to New Zealand, nobody in New Zealand was eating sugar, and back in Europe, people were hardly having any. But as the 19th century went on, we were consuming 100 times more sugar than people did 200 years ago in New Zealand. And as you add these things, as you look in the 19th century, heart disease starts to appear, diabetes starts to appear, cancer starts to appear. As you notice society out of sugar, all these things get added in. The Eskimo were said to be immune to cancer in the 1950s, as Eskimos didn't get any of our food. Once Eskimos started getting Western food, they all get cancer. So what I want you to see is just how much we load our society with sugar and the harm we do to people with sugar. And tooth decay starts very early. So,
sorry to stop you, I just want you to wrap it up now, please, because we're well over time. Thank you.
Just to say what we said, that this stuff is a toxic industrial waste product dumped into the water. I'll give you examples of damage to kidney, bones, and teeth. Look back to how people actually had very good teeth in pre-European times. The amount of sugar that's consumed, sugar damage is definitely. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you.